help guide this. A little bit about me. I've been a digital teaching and learning coach, a tech coach for the past 6.5 years, both in North Carolina and now in Albemarle County. I am a Google certified trainer. I've trained people to become trainers, and I'm also a Google certified innovator. So I have all the googly things. We're really here to work on the level 1 and level 2 training to make sure that we know what that means, and then also to build resources that you can take out for your own use and to share with other people. So that's kind of our big goal. And as Liza said, we will be working towards level 1 and level 2 both have exams that go along with it over the next couple weeks and months. We'll be learning how to best take those tests, what skills will be required, and then Vascal is also providing all of those tests for you. Neely, you're in this? Neely, yes. Okay, this is great. Okay, my buddy, this is cool. All right, so at this point, I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to start things off in our Google Classroom course. So if you haven't yet gone and joined our classroom, you'll want to go to classroom.google.com and use the code 2Q2ZCDD, and that will allow you to join our course where all of our materials will be. I see that a lot of you are already in the slides, so that's great. But if you haven't yet gone and joined our class, please do so now. And I promise I'm equally excited that all of the rest of you are here too. I just happen to know Neely from a couple years back and some projects we've worked on together. All right. So once you've joined our Google Classroom course, you'll see that I've made a couple posts in here, and I see that quite a few of you have introduced yourself over the last week or so. Where we're going to start off is this very first link that says week 1 slide. So when we're in the stream, we'll come down to Adam Seipel posted a new material, and in here it has a link for our slides. So again, please head there, and that will give you the viewable version of those. And at any point, if you want to make a copy, you can, and it'll be saved in your drive. Otherwise, you can just keep going back to our cohort and you can find it there. Okay, so with this session, it's going to be a mix of looking at 3 different tools, getting to know what program we're in, and kind of understand what this commitment will be. And as Liza said, just making sure that you know that I'm here to support you, and that looks different a day ago than it did 3 months ago, and it will continue to evolve, but me being here for you is consistent. So just let me know what it is you need, and we'll make something work. If you're newish to Zoom, you might benefit from knowing that when I'm presenting, you might need to hit the escape button in your browser so that you can regain control and you can access resources and so forth. Whenever I do a session, I like to start off with some norms, and we'll run through these today. We may not come back to them every single week, but we want to start with offering grace to one another. It's a challenging time. We all know that kind of goes without saying, but it is important to at least acknowledge it. As we try to serve our students and their families, offering them grace, offering grace to administrators who are trying to do their best for us. And then also just very practically, I've got 2 kiddos and a big black lab and an awesome wife. And at any point they might come into, I'm presenting from my bedroom right now. They might come in here. Carter may or may not have clothes on. He's 3, who knows? So just grace around that. We don't have a moderator, so I kind of need to update where it says ask, but it's a small enough group that if you have a question, please stop me, ask it, and I'm here for you. You can put it in the chat, and the room is always smarter than the individual. So if you put a question in there, there's a good chance someone will be able to answer it. But you can pause me and I'll answer anything you've got. Try something new. May not be perfect the first time. Keep going, and we'll figure out ways to make these strategies successful. One of the big purposes of this program is that we share with other people the resources I make. You can ask my permission to take any of these resources, but then the next time we come together, we'll talk about a collaborative website resource that we might put together. And that's all centered around sharing as we go back to our schools. And then finally, we're all in this together. I know we have multiple districts represented, but we're educators united to serve our kids. So thank you. Those are our kind of our norms as we go together. I'm Adam Seipel. I'm a nerd. I like technology. I really love instruction, and I love professional learning and working with people. So we are going to do this short activity that's linked on slide 4 about introducing ourselves. So if you could go ahead and click where that megaphone is, where it says introduce yourself. This is going to open up into some slides, and I hope I updated that link. I did not do that. So let me get the right link in there. I'm terribly sorry about that, and I'll put the correct link in the chat. I had one job. All right, so let me get that real quick. There we go. And I'll get the link in there in just a second. So also, Grace, when Adam puts the wrong link in somewhere, I'm sure that happens to all of us, and we just flow and everything is good. So in just 1 second, I'll put the right one in there and we will be all right. Okay. And again, I will drop this link into our chat. I will put this link into our chat and also update it on our slides. And so what this is going to do, once we go to this resource, each one of us will go in and claim a different slide. I have slide 2. And what I'd like you to do when you find the slide that's currently blank, drop in your name that kind of claims it for you, and then put in some pictures or videos or a Bitmoji, whatever it is that represents who you are. Go ahead and add those in here. And we'll take about 5 minutes or so to add as many of those as we'd like. And then we'll go through and be able to share and get to know one another as well. And again, the link is in our chat, and then I will also make sure that it's in updated on our slides. Cool. And the chat is lively. I love it. Cool. During this time, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and definitely ask, and I'll come around to help you. I don't know how I'll come around, but I'll help support you. Love the picture, Stacy. That looks awesome. Sorry, Shannon, I missed that. Can you go ahead?
Yeah, when I click on the slides in order to add myself in there, it's still not letting me. It says that I don't have access.
Okay. If you'd like, you can share your screen real quick and maybe we can see what's going on. And you use the link that's in our slot or in our group chat.
Oh, no.
Okay.
For some reason, when I first joined the Zoom, it kept telling me that my meeting would start in a few minutes, and then it never started. So I went back out and then came back in, and I was able to get you, but you were already talking then, so I missed that part.
Oh, gotcha.
And because of that, I may not have gotten the chat. You may have put it in after. No, I see it. Okay. So let me get that.
Thank you for asking that question. I'm glad that we can get you where you need to be. Okay, so we'll take another minute or so to add in some information about who we are, and then we'll move on to our next step within our slides here. Some really cool pictures going. Oh, cool picture in there. Our first Bitmoji showing up on Meg's slide. Turtles coming in.
Hi, this is Gina. My screen is freezing up, so you may not see any photos from me.
Oh, okay. I understand completely. Thank you. Okay. So for our next steps, what we're going to do is in Google Slides, we have the ability to do to add a comment. So if you would like to go back to my screen share, you can. Otherwise, if you already know how to do a comment, then that's fine. But what I'd like to do is we're going to look through our classmates' slides, and I'd like you to go in and comment on people's, and maybe you have something in common, or there's just something awesome that you'd like to give them some feedback on. Whatever it is, let's make sure that we add some comment, build that community in. So if you're watching my screen, we're going to select something, and it can be a picture or text, whatever it might be. So when I click on it, we get this icon up above that says add comment. Kind of looks like a speech bubble with a plus sign. And when I click on that, I can put in a comment over here on the right-hand side. So teamwork truly is important for everything we're doing these days. And then I can put in the comment, and now Maury is able to see that. So again, we'll take about 2 minutes to go through, put some comments in for each other, and then we'll come back together and be able to debrief on what we just did. All right. So as you're going through and looking at your classmates' different pages, what were some great things that you saw in there? What were some comments that you left, or some ways that some things we might have in common, or maybe anything that stood out to you? And you can unmute your mic and share out, and I'd like to hear from a couple of us. Any brave volunteers you'd like to share?
I'll
Okay, go ahead.
you. Yes. I was looking at Gina Thacker. I noticed that she has a 2020 high school graduate, and so do I. So she's probably had quite the interesting year as far as I have had with my child.
Congrats to both of you. That's awesome.
Yes, it was something else.
In my neighborhood, my neighbors and I, we went to all of the graduates' houses. I had a cap and gown on, and we handed them gift cards, and it was a really special evening. So anything we can do to celebrate those kiddos. Anyone else want to share out?
This is Maury. I just love the variety of what everybody had, whether it was a family picture or, you know, something that shows what they do for work. But it was a great way to just kind of get a quick snapshot.
I definitely agree. One of my favorite ways to see who people are without, you know, taking an hour to go through 40 people and everyone have a minute to share out. So this is an easy way that we can introduce ourselves and our students to one another, even if we're, you know, all across the state. Thank you. Anyone else? Let's hear from maybe one more person.
Is Pam Moran listening?
Maybe. Go ahead, Kara.
I think I saw on her slide that she just got a new beagle puppy, and we did too. She's only about 5 months old. I would love to connect with her about how to train her.
Pam does not have any clues on how to train her.
Who just said that about the puppy?
Kara Floyd.
Oh, Tara, I tell you what, she's keeping me busy. I could use some tips.
That's what I was going to say. Pam's not going to tell you how, Kara.
We have a quarantine dog too, but not a puppy. We got a 5-year-old black lab back in March. So right there together. Awesome. Well, I wanted to, I'll go ahead and let you know that I do the slides right at the beginning, also kind of as a way to see what skills we already have within slides. So it looks like most of us are familiar with how to add different types of images in here, which is great. We know how to add text. Now all of us know how to do comments in here too. There are a couple things that I want to make sure that we go over within this tool. So this is our first demo as well. So a little sneaky approach to it, I know. So, you know, some of the biggest things when it comes to slides are the different types of content that we can put in here. So most of us probably went up to the insert option. And if you're not doing a screen share right now and you're looking at your own slides, that's fine. I'm going to try to be very precise with my language and let you know exactly where I'm clicking. So I'm going up to where it says insert. And then in here we have, you know, 10 different types of materials that we can put in. We all saw how to put in images. You know, from here, I'm guessing quite a few of us uploaded or moved things in from Google Photos, or we also have the ability to search the web. One that we may not use enough is the camera option. When we pick camera, it's going to use your webcam. So our students, if they're doing this in class, you know, could put their information up, take a picture, and capture a physical artifact in a digital format and be able to post it directly in here. Man, that storm is rolling in right now. This is fun. All right, so I'm going to use my camera, select insert, and now that picture is in here too. Now that I have a picture, and I saw quite a few of you who might have rotated your pictures, some other things that we can do with this. So up at the top of my toolbar, we have these different icons we can click on. One of them is crop image, which would just, you know, reduce part of what we see. But directly to the right of that crop button is a downward arrow that allows us to mask. When I click on that, I can select a new shape for this, this photo. So now it's an arrow instead of it being just a regular square. And I can, if you look through here, there are many different shapes that we can do. I know that this is pretty popular for making like digital posters and things like that. Some other things that we can do now that I have an image, any artifact in slides can pretty much become a link as well. So a few moments ago, we saw that add comment button, but just to the left of that is the link button. And there are a few different ways we can do a link. You can go to insert link. You can find it right here. If you're someone who likes shortcuts, you can do Control K. And this will let you do a link in here. So I can link to a different slide if I want to. I can link to a website, and all of that's available directly within here. I don't know why it keeps going away, but we can link. Some other things that we're able to do within our slides when we go to insert, we have the option to put in audio or video. Video is going to pull from both YouTube and from Google Drive, so that can be a video that we've created ourselves. Then we get the option for adding shapes. And I'm going to add this rounded rectangle shape. And go ahead and draw my shape in here. We can see it. And some different things I can do towards the top of my screen again. I can click the paintbrush or paint can, change the color. I can add gradients to it. I'm going to use this purple color. I can change the back or the border color and make it any of these that I'd like. I'll make this one red. And keep going across. I can adjust the border weight. We'll make this one 8 for right now, so it becomes very prominent. But one thing I like to do for our learners is right next to border weight, and that's border dash. So when I do this, and I always think balderdash when I say that word, but in here I can click any of these other options. And I like to use this with kiddos so that they know how I want them to interact with different things on our slides or in a Google drawing. So maybe every time they see this checkered pattern, they know that it's a reflection question. Or maybe they know that they need to put in their own question or do a vocabulary definition or whatever it might be. And we can start to give those visual cues for them beyond dash lines simply meaning to cut something like it did when we were in elementary school. Something else that's pretty cool with these shapes is anywhere that I click becomes a text box too. So I just did a double click on double click on my shape, and now I can start typing, and this is my rounded rectangle, right? We can do that. We can change the font up, do lots of different things, make it a link, whatever we need to do to help draw attention to how we want our kids to engage with this. Continuing through some of our other options for inserting, we get things like a table. So if you're making hyperdocs, that's really helpful, or a choice board. But one that I think is underused is this diagram option. So when I click on diagram, it comes up with the right-hand side, and I get all these different choices and templates of different types of graphics that I can bring in. So the first one here is a grid. I can do timelines. My friend Neely is a social studies coordinator, so she might do some timelines. When we click on that, we can pick how many dates we want included. 6 is pretty busy, so I'll go down to 4. I can adjust the color. We'll make it this purple again. And then I can select from any of these different timeline visuals. I like this one. When I click on it, all of those are automatically brought in, and my students can go in and just customize as they need to. You know, they can always bring in videos or images that go along with it, but that's just a basic way we can get our timeline options in there. All right, so some final things that we want to make sure we know about slides. When we're on a slide and we've just clicked on it, we haven't selected any of the actual content on it, we get the options in here to change the layout. We can also adjust the theme. So this is visually or aesthetically what it looks like. And Slides has a lot that are already built in, so we can use any of those. If I wanted to, I can change the theme, and it will change for every single slide. So when I change to pop, you'll notice that the fonts on your slides will all change. The very last thing I want to make sure we know how to do in slides, and some of you are like, I've known how to do this for years and years, but we do need to make sure that we're all comfortable, is over here in the top right, there's one button that stands out from everything else in our Google tools, and that's the share button. If you're in slides, it's going to be yellow. If you're in docs, it will be blue. And when we click on that, we have a couple different ways that we can share. The first is I can type in someone's name specifically. So if I want this to go to carter@adamseipel.com, I can, and it will go to just him. And I can select how I want him to be able to interact with it. He can simply view it, he can be able to comment, or he can edit. Now, I'm going through this because when you take the exam in a couple months from now, it will tell you a specific person to share it with. And it's a pretend person, pretend account, but it will be very explicit. Share with Mrs. Jones. And you'd go and add Mrs. Jones, and she'd be an editor. The other way that we can share is this option down here to get a link. Now, this looks a little different than it might have at the end of the last school year. They did update this maybe in May or June. Now we'll click where it says change. And in here, we have a few different options. We want to, we have the option by default. It will probably be your district's account or domain. But a lot of times I like to use anyone with the link. And then again, I can adjust for what they can do. Once I have that link, I can put it in a newsletter. I can email it to people. I can put it in my Google Classroom or Canvas or whatever, and they can access. All right, so I'm gonna head back to our overall slides, cohort week 1. If you haven't yet gotten those slides, let me get those for you. I'll put it in the chat. It is in our Google Classroom too, but I wanna make sure if you came in late that you can still get access. Are there any questions or comments right now that people would like to talk through as I'm getting this link out? Okay, so I see a question from Kara about when is the creativity class? And we'll get to kind of the structure of these courses. Actually, our next slide will cover it. So let's go ahead and all look at slide 5. Okay, so slide 5 is an overview of our program and some important links. Level 1, when we talk about Google Certified Educator 1, these skills are largely going to be technical. How do I do different things within these Google tools? And we'll spend probably 40% of our class time together really looking at building up the technical skills throughout the suite. When we get into the level 2, this is where we really push things instructionally and think through how might we really adapt what learning looks like. So this will be, we're in class together, building choose your own adventures in forms. We're in Google Docs and we're making hyperdocs. So that's kind of where we're going, but we need to get that foundational skills first. So good question. Let's go ahead and look through these resources real quick. The first one is level 1 resources. Let's click that. And I've also put this into our Google Classroom, so you'll see it in there again later. Google has provided free training and comprehensive training that you can do as a supplement to what we're doing together, or you may never ever look at this again, and that's fine too. So in here, they have the fundamentals training that perfectly aligns with the level 1 training that we're doing. So in here, level 1 is based on 3 different units. The first is engage in professional growth and leadership. The next is increase efficiency and save time. And then finally, we have facilitate and inspire student learning and creativity. So everything that we're doing is really tackling how are we growing as educators? How can we share that with other people? And our collaborative project will really focus on that. How are these different skills going to save you time as a teacher? And then what can student learning, how can that be impacted? With any of these classes that you take, there are videos in there, there are different challenges, and that's really how my class is modeled too. The next link that we have in here is an exam overview. And I hate teaching to a test, but that is kind of inherent with what one of our goals is. So when we click on that, that exam overview button or link, it brings in, and must have made the copy at the wrong time again, because I put the correct link in our course. So I'm going to go back to our course and make sure I know that those are the right things. And it is available for you there. So sorry about that, guys. And that storm is really going. Okay. So the one on my screen, and I'll email you the correct thing, and it is in our classroom. Again, we're going over those different units. I see quite a few of you are in there, probably accessing from our classroom. How do we take the test? We're going to give you a voucher, and you'll sign up, and then it will email you a voucher code. And we'll go over how to do that in a couple weeks from now, a couple classes from now. When you're ready, you'll go to the certifications homepage and be able to start filling out and signing up for your test. When you're doing that, it's going to ask you for a trainer number. I'm trainer 01330, and if you could just put that in, that'd be great. The test is going to give you a fake Google account, okay, that you're only going to use for the 3 hours of the test. And in it, there are going to be certain files placed into this temporary Google Drive. You're going to have emails already in your Gmail, different things like that. And it's going to be very explicit with what it wants you to do each step in this exam. It will encourage you, or I encourage you, to use Google Chrome. You have a maximum of 3 hours. Most people for level 1 aren't reaching that maximum length of time, but for level 2, it certainly is a little bit more of a time crunch, but you will be ready for it. The test has around 25 content-based questions. So that'll be multiple choice, matching, and true, false. And then it has maybe 10 different scenario-based questions where you're actually going to have to go and create different things and use, demonstrate your mastery of these Google tools. So just know that that is forthcoming. So a scenario might be, you have to access a form called election opinions and view the results in a spreadsheet. And then you go and alphabetize that spreadsheet by last name, and then you create a pie chart. So it's really going to tell you exactly what it wants you to do. And that's not a time to try to be creative. You really want to just go through, buy the book, and do what it says to do. It's not graded by a person. It is an algorithm in the background. So no style points will be awarded. Really just try to do what it's asking. So that's the overview of the exam. Again, we'll go over this a couple other times throughout our sessions together, but I do just want to put it out in the open where we're going. So heading back to our slides, I'm going to go ahead and guess that that link is also incorrect right now. So I have put the correct one into our classroom as well. And I'd like you to click where it says skills checklist in classroom if you haven't yet done so. And this should be your own copy of this resource. So once we get to that skills checklist document, in here, I have every tool that's going to be covered in level 1 and what skills you'll need to be able to do. So, you know, we already ran through how to use Google Slides. We talked about how to insert different types of media, how to link things, how to put videos and comments in there and share. So all of that's in here. Now to the right, I have some resources for each of those tools, including Google's own resources, so definitely up to date. And then on the very far right, we have a little self-reflection. So you can self-grade how you're doing based on these skills on the left. You can also start to think through how you might use Google Slides in your classroom. And if you have questions, jot those in here. And every few weeks, we're going to have office hours that are completely optional. But if you have the skills checklist pulled up for those office hours, you can say, I'm still running into a concern around changing the background color on slides. Can you run through that real quick? And I'd be happy to. So I'm not going to try to hide anything. We're going to be talking about Chrome, Drive, Docs, Forms, Sheets, Classroom, Gmail, Groups, Meet, Calendar, Sites, in search over the coming weeks, and YouTube and a few others as well. So I know you probably have used a few of these tools. I know a lot of you have probably not used Google Groups before, so I'm really going to try to focus on the skills that you need to be successful with this test. And then level 2, we'll really have a lot of time to brainstorm additional ways that we can grow. Okay, so I'm heading back to our slides. Some other certifications that Google offers. I feel like I've already talked about level 2, and that is linked in here. Google has a program for certified trainer. So that with this, you would make a case study around how you've supported adult learners. You would showcase some of the materials that you've given, what feedback you've received, and you would submit that. Certified innovator, every couple times a year in traditional years, Google will bring educators from around the world to one of its offices, and you have 3 days to be able to collaborate, brainstorm, problem solve with other amazing educators. I participated in this in 2014 in Atlanta, and some of the people in my cohort of 35 have keynoted the biggest technology conferences in our world several times over. So really powerful group. And then the brand new certification that was just launched a couple months ago is Certified Coach. So with that, it's how do we have that long lasting impact with different teachers and help to problem solve, set goals and so forth. And that's the only one I haven't received yet, but I'll definitely be looking at that in the coming year. I want to pause real quick, and I know I threw a lot of information. This is probably the biggest brain dump of our entire course. What questions do you have about these key links? Maybe any of the certifications, any of those items? Any questions out there?
So do you have to be certified 1 and 2 before you do any of the others?
Yes, that's a really good question. Yes, you do for trainer, innovator, and I haven't looked enough into the coach to know yet, but I would assume that it's in there too. Good question. Okay, any other questions out there?
Yes, when would it be recommended that we take the level 1 and the level 2 tests?
So the way our course is broken down, I think by the time we've done our October session, and it might even be September, that you'll be ready for the level 1. And so we'll come back to how do we sign up around that time. And then level 2, when we finish up in November, or I think our final office hours in December. So around that time would be good for level 2. And you can certainly move at your own pace and take longer, or if you are supplementing quite a bit and you want to do it earlier, it's really up to you, but that's kind of the pacing of our time together.
And Adam?
Yes, Joshua?
Do you know if they're working on fixing the kinks? I tried to take it and it had an error when I was on question 18, and I saw that a lot of people have been having trouble with the test actually working, and then you fail because there's a problem on their end. I'm not sure, it would be like 504 error with our domain. Do you know if they're working on that?
I do not. It's been a year and a half since I had to retake the exam. I know that they recently changed the platform, so hopefully that will be resolved. I might reach out to Google for Education and see if they might be able to respond, and if nothing else, be able to refund and let you retest since there was that error. Great question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Adam, I had a quick question. Do you know if there's a possibility to earn professional development points for this, being a teacher?
Yes, so 2 different routes that you can take. So a few minutes ago, we looked at the course that Google builds, and it does keep track of, you'll see that it has an estimated time for the fundamentals of 15.1 hours. In Albemarle, where I work, if I print that out after I've completed this, they'll accept that for renewal. And then the other thing, and we haven't quite perfected the system yet, but you will be able to report the amount of time that you spend in our sessions, in office hours, any assignments that I might put out there, or general studying that you're doing. And then the certificate that you get at the end of our course will represent all of that time.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. I guess the other thing to know is that with the length of our sessions, there's no way that we're going to cover all of the tools within our time together. So periodically between our sessions, I will record a 5-minute video that might do an overview of one of the tools that we don't have time to do together. And I'll also put in an optional challenge that's just kind of a skill check that aligns with what you might see on the test. Most of the challenges that I give you, I do not need to collect back. It really is a self-assessment for you to see, do you understand how to do these challenges? And if you don't, you can always reach back out to me, but I probably won't go in and give you a grade when you do these challenges. All right. So moving along, this is what most of our tools will look like when we get into our slides. It'll start off with the name of whatever we're going into next, a short description of what we're going to do. I'm going to move on. And then a more detailed overview of the tool. So here, Google Slides, we can share content ideas and tell stories. Most of the time after we've seen this overview slide, we'll go into the tool and I'll give a tour, okay? And it might be a 10-minute, here's how we get around in this tool, in the tool. Here are some strategies we might want to use. Often those will be listed over here. So we can see within slides, we need to know how we add content, do themes, share and comment, and what collaboration looks like. The final thing to see is on step 3 over here, there's a link to Google training resources. When we go there, this is a new-ish resource that Google put out. They keep revamping and adding new layers of content, but they recently put out the Get Started With product guides. So with this, it's a lot of video-based information. So in here, if you need to create a presentation, you don't know how, you can watch this video. It's a 26-second video. Almost all of these are less than 30 seconds. You can download them. You can share this resource with teachers at your school, in your PLC, whoever you might support. Parents might benefit. And then down below, we get find tips and tricks from other teachers. So these are YouTube videos that other people have made. So how do I link to presentations? How do I automatically present? When you click on this, it will walk you through that step.
I'm going to
And most importantly, down below, we have additional lessons and resources that you can use. A lot of the fundamental training courses that we looked at a few moments ago, if it has to deal with that particular tool. So here's Google Slides. I can click on it and it'll run me through how do I use Google Slides to limit the amount of paper I use in my class and instructionally help my kiddos. And a lot of these are video based, which is really cool. So know that that's all available. We've already covered slides, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next tool, which is Google Drive. I know this is a foundational tool that a lot of us are very familiar with, but I want to make sure that we really understand how we use some of these different pieces. And I know that our internet is a little wonky for a few of us. I am recording this session and I'll email it out to you afterwards and also put it into our Google Classroom course so you can get back to it afterwards. And I know I'm going quickly, but again, you'll have this video resource you can go back to. All right, so Google Drive is where we can store all sorts of different files. If you're using a school account, we have unlimited storage. And what I'd like you to do right now is go to Google Drive. You can do it however you'd like. If you've never gone there before, you can open a new tab and type in drive.google.com and it will take you there. So let's make sure that we all get to Google Drive. And I'm going to do a quick tour of what Drive is, how we use it, and how we can make it really work for us. Most of the time when we're in a Google tool, I'm going to start in the top left and kind of work my way down and across. So the very first thing that we see under the Drive logo is it says new, okay? So when we click on new, we get a few different choices. By default, our cursor is going to be on adding a new folder. So Google is really trying to encourage you, the Drive team's encouraging you to organize your materials. Then we have the option of uploading resources from our computer or a flash drive. So with this, I can move a single file, I can move a folder that has subfolders, and it will maintain that structure simply by clicking on this, and then I can go and find it. With a lot of browsers, you can also drag and drop from your desktop to Google Drive, and it will work that way too. Beneath that, we have our core Google Drive tools of docs, sheets, and slides. And then if we come down to where it says more, we'll see some other really powerful tools like forms, drawings, maps, sites, and Jamboard. Throughout our course, we're going to use all of these different tools, maybe not drawings too much, but most of these tools will be brought in, and you'll have some understanding of how you can use it instructionally from our time together. Continuing down, we have priority, and this is trying to guess what types of things you're working on most recently. I don't use this too much. I don't think it'll be on the test, but know that it is using machine learning to try to get the things that you need brought in here. Then we have My Drive, and these are all the files that you've made or that you've uploaded from your computer. Okay, so we have our folders first, then we have our files down below. Again, we have unlimited storage with our school accounts. Shared drives, this is a feature within our schools as well, where the third grade PLC can all collectively own things. So it's not owned by just Neely or just Adam. And if Neely goes to a different district, her stuff won't go away. The whole team can still access it. Then we get things like shared with me. And in here, this is something that at one point someone has said, I need Adam to have this. And now I have it available. If I need any of these documents, I can click on it one time, and you'll notice in the top right, I get this Google Drive icon with a plus sign. I can click on that and it'll add it to my drive. Then we have recent. I think that's self-explanatory. Starred is basically saying that's a favorite item. I want to be able to get back to it quickly. And I can do that with a folder by doing a right click, or if you're a Mac user, a 2-finger click. And we have the option to add to starred. And now I can come back in here to starred, and those favorite files are here. I like to use this especially for if I'm unit planning. I can star my unit that I'm doing right now and quickly find it. Or if there's a file that I only need a couple times a year. So, maybe how do I submit grades? I know I can always go to starred those 4 times a year, find that resource, and I don't have to think about it again. Some other things that I like within Drive is the search feature. So up here at the top, we have, Google makes this, so search is going to be amazing within Drive. And I can start typing the name of something, but I can also come over to where I have this drop-down arrow. And in here, I can customize my search or advanced search. So I can say, I'm looking for a presentation or an audio file or a folder. I can pick any of these options. I'll do doc. Who's the owner? I can say it's owned by me, or maybe I need it to be my principal. I know that they shared something with me, so I can put their name in. We'll pretend Miles. And I can keep going down. I can say, when was it last modified? Does it have this in the title? And all sorts of different things. When I have all of these settings in place, I'm able to hit search, and it will filter for just that one part. So if I get rid of Miles as the owner, it'll probably work now. So now I only get documents that meet that criteria. So I'm going to just keep working across the top. This will not be on the test, but I think it's really helpful, especially if you are uploading a lot of resources from your computer or a flash drive. If you click that settings gear and then click settings, the second option in here is to convert uploads. And I really like this. If you're coming from an Office background and you have all of your Word files and you have all your PowerPoints, this will automatically convert them to docs and slides, and you don't have to go into each individual resource or file and do that. It will just do it in one fell swoop. Even if it's thousands of them at the same time, it will take care of it for you. So at this point, I'm going to, one last thing that I want to make sure we know how to do. I'm going to put our challenge up, and it will continue to be on my screen. And we're going to take about 2 minutes to run through how to do each of these steps. So this is going to be something similar to what you might see on the exam. We're going to make a Drive folder named Level 1. So again, to do this, we'll click where it says New and select Folder. Give that the name Level 1. After you've done this, I want you to go into that folder and make a subfolder named Study Materials. Next, we're going to change the color of Level 1 to green. Now, if you don't know how to change the color of a folder, you're going to do a right click or a 2-finger click if you're a Mac user on the folder. And then in here, we have the option of change color. And they have 24 different colors you can pick from. I think they're all food related. Slime green sounds fun. So I've changed the name of that folder, or not the name, the color to my green color. And then I know that we have steps 4 and 5. Step 4, we're not going to do, but please make sure that you know how to share a folder with a partner, okay? So if we are unsure of how to do that, we would click on, oh, that's fun. We click on the folder, and in the top right, we see a little silhouette image with a plus sign next to it. Whenever we see that, that's going to be an option to share. And this is where we would type in a specific person's name. Now again, on the test, it will give you a name that you need to use. And I like to just copy and paste it in from where the exam is to where I'm actually doing it. That way I know it's spelled correctly. But again, if it said to do Carter, I would add him and hit send. Okay. So real quick, looking back at my screen, if you can, this little challenge for Drive is very similar to what you're going to see in all of our sessions. And then when I cover a topic outside of one of our sessions in the in-between time, you'll see this at that point too. I will not be collecting any of these. This again is just a self-assessment. But if you run into issues or barriers with any of these challenges, please reach out to me and I'm here to help you. So as we're wrapping up with Drive, are there any questions out there that you have that you'd like to cover before we move on to our final tool of the day, which is Docs? And I see the good idea in our chat of sharing with your school account or your personal account if you have multiple accounts, and that's a really good option to do. So I like that idea. Thank you. Now, Kara said that she didn't see how to change the color, or that it actually took. So in here, when I'm in the My Drive, we can see next to Meet Recordings that it now is this different color. And if I went, and it only will change, we can only change a folder color, we can't change a document color. And I'll alter this one again. Kara, is that working for you? It's probably in the chat. In Drive View, yep, you got it. Good question. All right, so at this point, we're gonna bounce back to my slides and we'll run into Google Docs. All right, so Google Docs, I first started using Docs in 2008. My very first doc I ever made was a letter to families and my students about what my classroom would be like. It was my very first time being a classroom teacher, and it was so cool that those two very impactful moments coalesced so perfectly for me back then. So with Google Docs, we're going to look at how we can create, how we can conduct research and facilitate learning. We'll look at how we title and share, how we do comments and specify people in our comments, and some other tips and tricks. As we saw before, we have our Google training resources linked on the right-hand side. So if at any point you need that supplemental help, you can always go to the links on step 3 and be able to find that information. At this point, I'd like you all to go to Google Docs, but I'm gonna have you go there in a special way. I'd like you to open a new tab and type in docs.new. And I'll drop that into the chat as well. Docs.new. Sheena, can you ask your question out loud? I think it's a good one. And let me know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly or incorrectly.
You get bonus points for answering it for pronouncing it very correctly. Thank you very much.
Woohoo!
I just want to know, I know you're not collecting the bonus information, but would you still answer those questions? Because I'd like to make sure my thinking is correct here.
Yes, I'd love to. So if we go, and you can just watch my screen right now, I think that'll be good. So in Drive, and they've actually recently changed the term for this, or they're in the process of changing it. But if I select a file, so here I have April 2024 check-in, and hold down Shift-Z, it's going to give me the option of adding it to, actually I need to go into a folder for this. So I'll go into Screencastify. Okay, so this is a file that's in my folder Screencastify. I have it selected. If I click Shift-Z, it lets me pick another folder that I can also add it to. So maybe I want to put it in Meet Recordings as well. And then down at the bottom, oh, it went away. Okay, we'll do it again. So I'm doing Meet Recordings, and then it has a green Add button. So what this is doing, it's putting my file in 2 different places. It's still the same file. I like to think of this as my house has a front door and a back door. I can go in either of these and it's gonna still be the same house, and that add to is a similar idea. Now, and they're in the process of changing this to the term shortcut, but it's going to be that exact same functionality. So some places you might see it listed as shortcut right now. Some places it might be add to, but it does that same thing. Did that help, Sheena?
Yes. So add to, it'll still be in both places, but move to, once I move it, it's not in the original location anymore.
You're right. Yep. So move to,
That's
it
what I
is
was thinking. I
only.
just want to make sure.
Yep. Good question.
Thank you.
And Kara, I hope that answered yours as well.
Adam, this is Maura. I have a question about that. Does a certain set of permission sharing then override, or is it have different permission sharings in each folder?
It would depend on that parent's folder setting, I believe. So if teacher B had access to Meet Recordings and teacher C had access to Screencastify, they would still be able to see it or edit based on what that folder setting would be. Good question. Okay.
Hi, this is Lindsay Hendricks. I have another question about that.
Okay.
So I'm hitting Shift-Z, and it's not coming up the way you did, but I do see Add Shortcut to Drive on my end.
Okay. So I guess the first thing you would need to do is make sure that the video or the file was already in one folder. And that's why it wasn't working perfectly for me at first. I needed to first go into a folder. Is that what's going on for you, or what are you seeing?
Yes, I'm just seeing Add Shortcut to Drive. Is that the same thing?
That's going to be the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. So I do want to transition back to Docs because this is kind of where our final focus is for the day. What happened when you typed in docs.new?
It opens a blank Google Doc.
Thank you, Angela. And that is exactly right. So we can do that for slides.new, sites.new, forums.new, any of those, and it will pop open with a brand new one that is going to save in our drive. So a very easy way that we can get all of our students to open a new doc if we need to. Whenever I'm in a Google Doc, a blank one, I always start by clicking where it says untitled document and giving it a name, even if it becomes a throwaway name like live demo 8.6. At least it has something in there, and when I see the term demo, I know I can go in and delete it. I do this because, you know, I mentioned I started using Drive or Docs in 2008. Over the next 4 years, I accumulated 600 untitled documents in my Drive, and that didn't help me whatsoever. So I always click where it says untitled document, and that's going to be the file name that, you know, later on when I'm in Drive, I'll be able to go in and find what it is that I need. Directly next to where we put in our name or our title, we'll see that there's the option to star the document. I can move it to a folder, and then finally it lets me know that it is saved, okay? So we get that cloud icon with the check mark. That lets me know that everything's saved. All right, so now I have my blank document, I have my cursor in here, and I can start typing. I always like to when I do a tour of Docs, I assume that most people have used it some, but I want to highlight some of the lesser known features that I absolutely love. So the first one of those is the Explore tool. So for this, I want you to type in something that is interesting to you. And it can be just a fragment, but just anything that's interesting to you. So for me, I love cooking. Actually, I'll change this. Making ice cream with fresh summer ingredients. My family joined a CSA this year, so every week we get a big bag of new vegetables and fruit, and we've been making a lot of ice cream. So this is definitely an interest of mine right now. I am going to mute us real quick. Okay, so now that I have my text in here, I want to go down to the bottom right hand of my screen where you might see an Explore button, and this looks like a speech bubble with a star in it. When we click on this, it comes up with, here are some topics that you might be interested in for your research. So I'm interested in this first one, ice cream. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and pick one of those topics that might have come up. Maybe there is only one, but just pick one. And we'll go ahead and click on it. And what this does, it brings an entire Google search directly into my Google Doc. And I'm really excited by this. So the first result, of course, is Wikipedia, but then the next two are from my home state of Ohio, and that's awesome. So graders from Cincinnati is great. And we have been using a lot of Jenny's Splendid ice cream recipes for everything that we've done. So I love that those come up. Cool. So when I find a resource that I want to go and read more about, I can click the link and it'll take me in there. But there's something else that I really love from this view. So say that I end up copying and pasting some information from a site. I'm still gathering my information. It's not my final copy. But when I hover over one of these results, I get in the top right-hand corner a quotation mark. When I click on this, it's going to cite my resource for me. By default, it'll be MLA. But if you scroll up just a little bit where it says web results, you'll see the 3-dot menu, and we can select MLA, APA, or Chicago. So again, very easy way to give credit to our sources, and that we no longer have to commit citation to memory. And graders is awesome. That is true. Absolutely. English teacher geeking out over here. I'm a recovering English teacher, and my first year of teaching, I was doing a research unit, and midway through the unit, MLA went and completely revamped everything. So I had to reteach, and now we can focus on the content, on the information, and not really drilling on how do we cite things. Things are cited. I can go back and find it, and we do give credit. So I love that evolution. Now, the other thing that we can do directly from here is find images. And I know all of you are able to find images in slides, and we can do it that same way of going to insert an image, but there's a benefit to coming into the Explorer to do it. So now when I find one, I'm going to click the plus sign on any of my images, and it'll drop it in here. But when I click on this image of ice cream, it also gives me the link to where it came from. So it may not be citing it for me, but as the teacher, can I ensure that I know where that picture came from? Well, yes, I can. Okay, so it makes it very easy to know the source material again, which is a big consideration for digital citizenship, right? The final thing that we have across the top is Drive. And this is going to look in all of my different Google Drive folders and files for the term ice cream. And this is very helpful if I'm trying to unit plan and I need to bring in content from different files and docs and slides. I can do that search for the topic I'm trying to bring together. Maybe it's Romeo and Juliet, maybe it's Reconstruction, and all of those files will be thumbnails and very easy to find. So I love the Explorer tool. I think it's a fantastic resource for our kiddos.
Adam, I have a question.
Go ahead, Shannon.
With the images, is it also a Google safe search so you don't have to worry about like inappropriate material or copyright issues? I think that's what I read somewhere.
So there are a couple ways that you can filter within a school Google account. So we can do a content filter, and that's part of the internet provider for your school. So some districts have that will just blur out any questionable picture. And I think that's kind of the main way that within these results that it's going to be filtered. I don't think that it's going to filter as if I have a 7-year-old, if he looked up butt or fart, he might get an image that has that. I'm not really sure. Now, I do know that if you go up to where it says insert and do image search the web that way, they kind of hedge their bets that say only select ones that you've confirmed that you have the license to use. It used to be that it said all of them are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. In a couple weeks, we'll spend some time in Google search, image search, and Chrome itself to be able to see how we can really filter those to make sure that the usage rights line up for what we're trying to do. It may not be the proper answer, but if my student is able to come in and find an image and cite it, I'm a lot more lenient than if they just bring in any image that they may or may not have the rights to use. That's my unofficial statement. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so now I've shown one of my favorite tools, a couple other things that I want to make sure that we are able to look at before the end of our session today. I'm going to go up to Tools, and they have some amazing resources in here. So not only can I now do spelling and grammar check, which is, believe it or not, a newer feature to Google Docs. I can come in and do a dictionary search for any word. I can translate my entire document. People check this out. When I select Translate Document, it gives me the option to put in a title, but then choose a language and look at all these different languages that I can select from. So I'm going to do Somali and then translate. And it opens up this resource. And now my text at the top about ice cream that use seasonal ingredients has been translated. Now I only have one fragment, one phrase that's being translated, but this would do similar action if you had an entire dissertation, right? All of that would be instantly translated. Now, the caveat being that it is using Google Translate, which I know some people have some reservations about. My official stance on this is that the school I support has over 60 spoken languages, and there's no one in our district who is an expert in all of those languages. If I can begin to reach out to my students and their families by translating simple language to them, I think that's going to better serve them than not making the attempt and handing them something in English that may not be accessible whatsoever. So that's my thought on it. So I see from Jennifer in the running chat, if yours does not come up with a citation, images do not cite fully with MLA, but what they do is just have the link to where the source material came from. And you need to make sure that you first select a topic before the quotation button comes up for the web results. So I also see the thing in here about lots of English teachers. I love this. So when I'm writing a research paper using Google Docs, I also go up to add-ons, which are additional tools that you can put into your doc. And there's a really great one from EasyBib. And that way I can build out my entire works cited reference page. I can bring in different books and non-website resources, which goes beyond what we can do with just lost my mind, the Explore tool. So I use the EasyBib one quite a bit for my grad school program that I finished last week. Yeah. Okay, so the final tool that I definitely want to showcase in here is voice typing. And this is something that probably all of us use on our phone from time to time, but it is built directly into Docs as well. So when I select voice typing, it comes up with this icon on the left. When I click on the microphone, I need to say allow. Voice typing is an amazing resource for our learners in that it allows them to transfer the ideas that they have in their head to that often intimidating blank Google Doc, period. I know that many students lose fantastic ideas and the ability to express themselves simply because of physical barriers or the ability to process information from their head to their fingers, period. New paragraph. How might we empower all of our learners through tools like voice typing ? Okay, so I think it did pretty well. And you know, everything I just said, I completely mean. I mean it sincerely. I've worked with educators who had lost mobility in their hands, who cried when they're able to once again collaborate with their peers through voice typing. Again, this resource is getting better and better. I may not use it with my kids for a final draft of a paper, but if we're brainstorming or trying to get all of our questions out, or I'm working with my 7-year-old, we'll read a book together, and then I'll have him use voice typing to summarize what he just read. And to us, that's a way that he can process, and we remove barriers for that processing step. So I do want to, if you'd like to unmute and just any reactions, reflections that you might have about these different tools that we've seen so far. Check the chat too.
I like the voice over because when I was while I've been working on my educational leadership, my papers, I learned from my 13-year-old daughter that I could actually type them while I was in the bed.
For sure. Now, Pam and I both know, we both have worked with someone who typing and reading are both really, he experiences a lot of barriers with that. And he's written an entire dissertation or very long papers completely through voice typing. And again, how much can we empower our kids with that? Now, with our students, when eventually we're back physically with our students, a lot of kids have headphones that have a microphone built directly in. That's going to serve them a lot better than trying to use a microphone that's in their computer. Or if they have a cell phone with the Google Docs app on their phone, they could do it directly from that too. So a couple different ways that if we have more students in a room, that we can make it work. The final thing I want to highlight about voice typing, directly above that microphone icon is a drop down where they can select not only the language that they're speaking, but what dialect. So what country of dialect are they using as well? So I know the school where I work, we have a lot of students from Ecuador who speak differently than the students who come from Mexico or from El Salvador. So they can go and pick the dialect and it will import in that way as well. Okay. So at this point, the final piece that I definitely want to make sure we know how to do with Docs is how we do comments in some different modes that we can use here. So we already saw how to do comments in slides, but there's an extra step that I want to make sure we're aware of. So when I highlight a word or an image in my file, we'll notice on the right-hand side, we get a little bubble with that comment button. And I can click on this, and we've seen how to just type a general comment, but if I want it to go directly to a specific person, I can do a plus sign and then start typing their email address, and it gives me the option to assign to that person. And what this does, not only do they get notified via email that they have an action to take, it's also a way that we can filter within Google Drive to find everything that's been assigned to me. So again, if we're trying to give feedback to our students, after we put that message in there, if we want to ensure that they go back to it, we can assign it to them. Or if you're working with your PLC and you need to divide the work, you can use this tool. And it's going to prompt you to make sure that it's shared with them. And it will ask you what type of role do you want them to have, just comment, can they edit, whatever it might be. And then you can hit comment and they can receive it. So that's one thing. The other part that I want to make sure we know how to do is in the top right-hand corner. We have where it says editing. And in here, we have 3 different ways that people can engage with the document. Editing is what we're used to when we're adding something. I think viewing is also pretty self-explanatory that you're not able to make any changes, but suggesting might be new to a lot of us. So let's go ahead and select that suggesting option. And then take a look at what this will do. So if I want to go in and make a change, I'm going to put making delicious treats instead of ice cream. And it doesn't actually change the text when Carter goes back into this into this work. He'll still see ice cream, but it'll give the option over here that he can accept or decline that suggestion. So this is very helpful when it comes to peer editing, or again, if you're trying to co-construct a back to school letter for your grade level or your department, you might use this type of option so that it doesn't actually take an effect until everyone has that consensus. When you're ready to leave suggesting mode, you go back up, select editing or viewing, and you're good to go. If you're using Google Classroom with your students and you're looking at an assignment, something that a student has submitted as a Google Doc, it automatically has you in that suggestion mode, which is pretty nice. Again, our students are in control of their own artifacts of learning, and we won't automatically go in and make changes to it. We can give feedback though, which is incredibly important. So I see a question in our chat about can we do math in Docs? And there is an option for insert and equations, but it's pretty lousy. In a couple weeks, we're going to look at Google Chrome extensions, and one of my favorites is called Equatio. And we'll definitely talk about how that is an excellent option for math and science equations. And if you want to look that up in advance, it's like equation, but without the N at the end. And it's free for teachers. It will require a subscription for students to use the full thing, but it's a really great tool. Again, Equatio, amazing, amazing resource. Okay, so at this point, I'm heading back to our slides, and I have a very short challenge that I think we've kind of already done. So I will let this be something you can do on your own time. A lot of our challenges will have something in here about adding a comment to a partner. I like the idea that someone suggested of if you have multiple Google accounts, share it with yourself to a different account. We can just go ahead and roll with that idea. And there is a bonus in here about how we can add a YouTube video into a doc. It's a pretty convoluted way. It does function, but it's definitely not something that will be on the exam. So we're not going to spend time together right now going into that. But if you find out how to do this, we're building a collaborative site. Maybe you can put that resource in there. All right. So we've covered a lot. I feel like I've spent the last hour and a half just yammering on. I hope it has been helpful. Again, we're trying to get those base level skills for these different tools and continue to think through how instructionally we might be able to use these tools too. What I'd like you to do, and I have this in, it's also linked within our Google Classroom, is an exit slip. And I love to get feedback from people. So when we go to that exit slip, the first question is to select what week we're in. And it's week 1, slides, drive, and docs. And when we go in here, it's going to have a few different questions. If you've been in my other VASCL sessions, you probably are familiar with this layout. But go ahead and just fill this out. Be honest with it. I don't think I asked for your name, so it is anonymous. Please put whatever highlights, if there are things that were good. If there are ways that I can better serve us, drop that into the feedback as well, that final question. And thank you guys for being with me today. You can definitely stick around for the next couple minutes. I'll be on for maybe another 10 minutes or so if you have questions. I'll put the recording for our session into our Google Classroom page. There's going to be a section in there for recordings, and all 8 different times or 6 different times, however many times we're coming together, all of those will just be listed in there. And you'll also get a follow-up email from me with those materials. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to stick around. Thank you guys so much for joining. And at any point you can email me, contact me, and ask whatever questions you're having, and we can problem solve together.
So Adam, is the exit ticket linked, or I have to go into the slide deck and then go to it? I don't see the exit ticket itself in Classroom.
I thought it was. I'll put it in our group chat right now so that we can all make sure that we can get to it, okay?
Okay.
And I think it is in the slide deck too on
Yeah,
slide
I just
14.
didn't know if I needed to open the slide deck or if I was missing it somewhere.
I think it's multiple places. It all takes you the same place. Oh, link was blocked, requiring access. Is that everybody?
No, I was able to get in.
I could get in through the slideshow.
Okay.
I couldn't either. It was saying access denied.
I could get in okay.
Huh, this is interesting. But go ahead.
I was able to get in also.
I'll include the link in my follow-up email. So if you have to take off, it'll come to you later tonight. But thank you for that feedback. I'll have to check my links better in the future. Okay, so I'm gonna stop our recording, but again, you guys can stick around for the next 5 minutes or so, and if any questions come up,